Welcome to the EDC Conquest. I'm Ian, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at button-actuated utility knives, specifically for use in the construction side of using your tools. And we're going to be taking a look at Milwaukee versus DeWalt, which is a bit controversial depending on who you talk to. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing the differences between two brands. Let's get into it. This is the first one, which is literally just a utility knife and nothing else, along with the original DeWalt utility knife, just a utility knife and nothing else. As you also have the big brothers to those that have blade storage, which we will get into in just a minute. Let's look at the Milwaukee here. You have a standard handle with a nice finger indention here that allows you to get a pretty decent grip. I have pretty average, slightly larger hands. It's about 3 1/4 inches from knuckle to knuckle width span, and I can get about a 3 1/2 finger grip on the handle. So the pinky on this one is a little lacking. However, they do provide a nice little finger choil for you to choke up on with your index finger, and then you can get like a nice comfortable grip enough to where you can really bear down on some of those heavier slicing cuts and get right behind the edge, get finer control for those kinds of precision and potentially high-powered cuts. Same thing goes with the DeWalt. They give you a nice handle and a nice finger trail to choke up on. However, the handle in comparison is actually quite a bit longer. As you can see them, I nest them on top of each other where these finger groove indentions line up. The DeWalt has quite a bit more handle extending towards the back, leaning towards your hand getting a fuller purchase on the utility knife, and your hand isn't lacking during the back, giving your back 2 fingers a nice handle to hang on to and being able to grip when making bigger cuts. On the bigger brother to the Milwaukee, you have the bigger one, the 1502, that is still just a utility blade, but this one incorporates a wire stripping notch, a little cutting notch towards the back where you'd normally see that choil. These angles here actually create a bit of a hot spot, and if you're trying to choke up and get those cuts, you actually feel the notch pinching your hand, and it does not make for a comfortable grip, and you could potentially slide up and snag the edge of the utility blade that is inside the holder portion of the tool, and you could potentially cut your hand there, which is kind of a big deal. So this doesn't let you have the full grip up here. However, towards the back, you do have a nice comfortable handle that don't let your back 2 fingers slip off, and you have the little fold out blade storage with a magnet in the back, so you can hold, I think, up to, you can hold up to 5 blades in the storage, fold out storage portion of the Milwaukee here. And then for the DeWalt big brother, very similar design, except that you pull it up from the front instead of the middle like you would on a Milwaukee. You open it up, you can hold up to 6 blades. In my experience, I've been able to fit 5 to 6 blades in this, so you get a little bit more width capacity. You can fit an extra blade in there, which these ones are really handy if you're going through blades and doing a lot of cutting in a day. If you need all those extra blades, it helps to be able to have a place to put the bad blades, just slide them in the back if you need to, and then you have a good one ready to go. Just pop back into the handle. The handles themselves have key characteristics that kind of fall in line with one another. These have like obvious Milwaukee DNA with that deep index in finger guard / finger indentation there that you can get a nice grip on, and your finger is very securely held in place there for making nice, solid, and reliable cuts without fearing sliding up onto the edge of the knife, giving you a nice bit of guard so that you don't cut yourself on the blade. Same thing goes for both of the DeWalt knives. When I hold them up close to each other, you can see they also have a bit of a finger indentation for that index finger. You also have that nice finger choil on both models. So between the bigger versions with the blade storage, you do get a nice choil on the DeWalt, but not on the Milwaukee, however. They do both have the cutting notches from the back, so if you need to have an accessible edge without opening your tool, you have that right there in the back of the knife. The DeWalt handle DNA that they've carried over to both of their designs is finger choils that make it much more useful when you're having to choke up and make those precision cuts on both the big one with the storage as well as their standard size, which is bigger than the standard size on the Milwaukee, giving you more purchase. They also have jimping, a little bit of subtle jimping along the back of the knife. I almost said spine, but it doesn't really have a spine since it's not an actual blade. More like the blade cartridge-like holder, as well as part of the handle. They give you some nice subtle jimping so that your thumb has a good amount of traction when you are doing those kinds of cuts. Between the DeWalt and Milwaukee, when it comes to handle ergonomics, the DeWalt series has a more ergonomic handle, making everything nice and rounded, giving you a more solid grip. So they have more comfortable handles that give you a nice solid feel, whether you go with the big or the small one. You have your options there, but they are both going to be more comfortable than the Milwaukee, as even on the front you have rounded edges here, and here they are not as rounded and are actually a little bit more sharp to grab onto when you really need to bear down, and you don't get those hot spots with the DeWalt. We can move on to blade exchanges. That is a very highly critical part of using a replaceable bladed utility knife, is having a good blade exchange system that holds the blade in place, but also is easy to disengage when you don't want it to be there. With the Milwaukee style of utility knives, you'll get a little bit of a shelf here on the pocket clip side with a button underneath of it. All you do is to press that button, you slide the blade out, and then put your new blade back in, and it latches in place. With the DeWalt, the blade exchanges are done a little bit differently, so they're nice and smooth on both sides. You don't have any shelves sticking off that might give hot spots depending on which way you are gripping the tool. You have this little silver non-coated lever that works kind of like the back spring on a lockback style of knife, but you pull this little lever up, you pull the blade out, and then put the blade back in, and then the lever has those little teeth that latch into the top of the blade that hold it in place. You actually just need to lift it to remove the blades. You can actually just push the blade in and it will latch itself in place. So that makes for easier blade exchanges, and you can just use one finger. Like if you're holding the knife, all you have to do is turn it to where your thumb can grip that little shelf take the blade out and then just shove a new blade in. Whereas with the Milwaukee series of fastback, don't have as good of action in my experience. You have to like choke up and walk all your fingers way up because it's the lock for the blade is on the opposite side. You actually have to use your index finger to pinch that button. So it's a 2-finger release between your thumb and your index finger. You pinch it in order to pull it out. And then when you put it back in, you have to press it again to get it to go back in. So it's just a little bit more fussy of a mechanism with the Milwaukee versus the mechanism for blade exchanges on the DeWalt. So the one thing that makes DeWalt a big winner in this kind of comparison is how you carry it. Actually matters a lot. What position the pocket clips are in. With Milwaukee pocket clips, they are always tip down. So when it sits in your pocket, the tip of the blade is pointed down, which means when you have to pull it out of your pocket, you have to pinch it like this, let it fall into your hand, and then adjust it up into your hand because you have to walk your thumb down to the button mechanism to be able to open it and close it. There we go. A little bit sticky, but yeah, they're always tipped down, and then if the button gets depressed in your pocket and the blade becomes open, if you have to reach in your pocket to grab something else, you risk slicing your hand on the blade as it's still open in your pocket, which makes it not as safe of a carry as tip up, which is exactly what DeWalt did with their pocket clip in their design. So huge thank you to DeWalt for finally listening to people who may have asked for a tip up carry, because as this sits in your pocket, the spine of the knife, or the way it opens, is depressed up against this seam or the hem of your pocket on the inside. So even if it does get depressed and start to come open, your pocket is right there and will probably push it back into place because it will be slid right next to the seam of your pocket on your pants. So not only is this safer, but it's actually easier to get to, because as you reach your hand in, these go over the outside of the pocket or grabbing the clip. All you have to do is pull it out and your hand is already right there. Your thumb is on the button, ready to deploy the blade, and then you can go right to town, and then it's already in your hand. You don't have to flip it around before you put it in your pocket. It's already ready to go, and you just shove it in your pocket, and then it's back where it was, giving you the speed and ease of access to be able to use the tool in an effective way. So tip up carry is preferred when it is available, and DeWalt finally offers that. So between the two of each one, between the big one with extra blade storage, it's kind of a no-brainer that you'd pick the DeWalt over the Milwaukee, because you get a comfortable finger choil in a bigger design, so you can choke up on the bigger tool, as holding it back with it being heavier makes it a little harder to use. You get a tip up pocket clip, you get a little more blade storage, and you get an easier blade swap mechanism that is still just as secure. That doesn't cause hot spots. So there's a lot of pros to the DeWalt over something like a Milwaukee. Now, they're both relatively affordable. I believe these are like $16 and these are like $14. So you're actually paying $2 less for an arguably better designed tool. Additionally, the pocket clip on the Milwaukee is a one-position pocket clip, and it's there and you can't put it on any other orientation, whereas DeWalt comes with a tip-up pocket clip, but you can actually switch it to be tip down if that is something that you prefer, which caters to a bit more of an audience, because there are people who will carry tip down over tip up, and then there are some people who just don't care. But the people, for you who do care, there is a mount at the top pivot end of the knife where you can switch the pocket clip so you can carry it tip down if you want to. This is a right hand bias design because the lock that you depress with your thumb is on the side that you use with your right hand. It is not really a lefty friendly design unless you use your index finger to do so, which is perfectly usable. It's just you're not going to be able to carry it on the other side of the knife where you'd carry it if you were left-handed. That leads us into the quality of the pocket clips themselves. The only really drawback to the DeWalt is that the pocket clips are a little thinner gauge wire. They're both wire pocket clips, but they're a little bit thinner gauge, and they run parallel with each other down. They come out and loop over, as do these, but these run parallel with each other, and the wires on the Milwaukee fur out just a little bit before they go down, leading to it having a little bit more structure, as well as this being a thicker gauge wire. It actually is stronger towards like catching it on something and bending it, which I've caught these pocket clips on a few things because it does have considerable access there. They're both good enough to get over like reinforced pockets and work pants and everything. They both have enough lip to be able to get over that, but sometimes they can catch on things. On the Milwaukee pocket clips, they have a good bit of tension and don't bend really. So the pocket clip itself, I would say, is better, because on the DeWalt, if you catch it, you're pretty much going to bend it. In fact, I did on the bigger one I was carrying this week. I caught the pocket clip and it bent it. I had to like use pliers and bend it back down, which isn't that big of an issue. You just undo the screw, take it off and pinch it back together and then screw it back on. Or you could just take some bigger pliers and squish it back to the knife without taking it off if you want to have a little bit of a shortcut there, which is what I did. But the other thing that I think Milwaukee does right over DeWalt is the screw they use to secure their pocket clips. So both brands use a single screw to secure their pocket clips. They're all held in with a singular screw. So whether you are removing it or putting it back on or needing to tighten it, it's only one screw which holds it in place. But they do have grooves that the pocket clip wires rest in so that you don't get it like squirrely and looping around. It stays still. However, being able to switch it, the DeWalts all have a Torx, which I believe matches the pivot screw. So they use the same kind of screw, but Torx might be a little bit harder of a bit to find. If you needed to take off the pocket clip, it might be a little more difficult to find the bit, whereas the Milwaukee actually uses a Phillips bit to take the screw off. So it is a little more user-friendly in that regard, that the screws can be a little easier to maintain and do maintenance with if that is what you need to do with them. So between the two, I believe everything about the DeWalt knives kind of take the cake, and the DeWalt, I would go with a DeWalt any day of the week over one of these Milwaukees. If DeWalt updates their pocket clips, makes it with thicker wire and furs it out to make it a little stronger, then that's pretty much like a bomb-proof design. They're both super durable, made of super durable kind of hard plastic material, and super affordable. Usually around $10 to $15 for each one. The little ones are usually around $10 to $12, and the other ones are normally $14 to $16. The DeWalts are a little bit cheaper than the Milwaukees, so take that and do with that what you will. Are you a DeWalt or a Milwaukee fan when it comes to just utility blade style of utility knives? I will have links that will take you over to Amazon where you can pick any of these up depending if you land in Team DeWalt or Team Milwaukee. I have both of the links available in the description, so make sure you check that out. And then share what your thoughts were in the comment section if you are a Milwaukee or a DeWalt fan when it comes to button actuated utility knives. So thanks for watching. I invite you to like and subscribe. Thanks, and share the video with someone you think might like it. And yeah, stick around. We're gonna have more coming soon for sure. So until then, keep it real and stay sharp.